mind mailing it out to Melanie.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. Honey.
Has recycling seen its best days? We as a country have learned to accept recycling in our everyday lives. The younger generations of today will grow up with recycling being just as normal as throwing a piece of trash away in the garbage bin. I am a third generation in a sanitation business and have grown up in the recycling movement as a whole. I have always been an advocate for recycling a piece of paper from a worksheet at school or a can of tomatoes used for Sunday dinner. As time has gone on, I have thought about the bigger picture of recycling and not just what happens in my family's home. This has caused me to question some of the products we recycle and why they are being recycled. The sorting of recycling products and the markets that they are shipped to is something that not many people think about when they throw away something in their recycling bin. When recycling started in the 1980s, carbon offsets and net energy savings were not things that anyone had thought of. The only thing that people were concerned with were pounds that were kept out of the landfill. As commingle recycling became popular in the early to mid-1990s, recycle markets were very robust. Local governments used these robust markets to implement recycle programs. The ins and outs of recycling. We need to know what can go in and what can go out. In the recycling world, one must know what cannot go into the recycling bin and what can. I have had the opportunity to see where recycling goes in once it leaves our community. I have seen how all of the products we mix together in our recycling bin are sorted out and sent to the correct markets. I have seen the negative impacts of contaminants in our recycle bins once they leave our hands. This separation process takes a large amount of energy from factories and the preparation that the products have to go through. Each time contaminants are mixed in with recyclables, it can cause the whole load to be rejected and sent to the landfill, or it's costly in time, money, and energy to shut down an entire facility to cut plastics that have been wrapped up in the sorting lines, slow down the belts so that the contaminants can be picked up out of the sorting lines, and pay for the disposal of all the contamination so that it can be sent to a landfill. The most common culprits of contamination world are plastic bags and glass. Plastic bags, although handy to haul groceries, are death to a material recovery facility. These facilities have a mixture of human and automated sorters that include large sort lines with conveyor belts, an automated system of screens, magnets, blowers, etc. to move recyclables down the line to be sorted into their proper markets. These plastic bags become entangled in their sort lines, especially the screens that move the products up from the ground to the sort lines. While plastic bags should not go into curbside recycle bin, they can be recycled if they are kept source separated. Historically, glass was picked up at curbside when source-separated recycling hit the streets of our community in the 1980s. In the early 1990s, we went to curbside commingle collection in roll carts. Glass was removed from curbside pickup altogether. Most people do not realize that glass is not included in the commingle curbside bins, and just like plastic bags, if glass gets into the commingle recycling, it causes many problems at the material recovery facility. Glass by nature obviously breaks, and therefore, by the time it is picked up locally by the community, collection trucks, transferred into our long-haul transfer trucks, and hauled to the material recovery facility, it is very rarely in one piece when it finally arrives at the sort line, making it not only a danger to humans working there, but also a contamination to most of the paper products as it breaks in shards. Oregon is unique in that nearly 70% of our fiber stays local. However, Washington and California accept glass in their curbside collection, but nearly all of their fiber is exported to China and other foreign countries. Just like the plastic bag, glass is very recyclable as long as it stays source separated. Contamination costs us all. Products like metals, paper, glass, and plastic have historically been the principal recyclables. Fiber is a renewable source. Metal and glass are made from natural resources that are not renewable. Plastic, while a byproduct of oil, is not a renewable source. And so, when recycling came about, our only concern was keeping the tonnages out of our landfills. The common theme was that our landfills were going to fill up and we were not going to have any place to put our solid waste. Therefore, we needed to divert everything we possibly could to get it out of the landfills. However, As we have become more educated, we have learned to measure carbon offsets and/or energy savings instead of just tonnages. More and more, each commodity is now being analyzed and evaluated as to what the carbon benefit is, and the measurement is being used to create new recycling programs. In the early 1990s, when curbside commingle recycling became popular around the nation, recycle markets were robust and were paying over $100 a ton in some cases. Markets stayed strong through the early 2000s. However, in 2006, a recycle market crashed like never before because of the export market and Asia being fed up with the poor quality of the recycled material that the United States had to offer. This was known as the green fence, a virtual fence that was put up by Asia to keep our poor quality recycling out of their countries. Since 2006, recycle markets have been on the steady decline to where local communities are having to pay to leave their recyclables at a material recovery facility themselves. In the past, when local governments were designing recycle programs, it wasn't easy to sell to the communities because of the cost offsets from paying to send tonnage to a landfill to getting paid to send tonnage to the material recovery facilities. Now that the revenue from recycling is all but gone, local communities are looking at recycling programs with a much closer eye. There's a tipping point to where citizens will not pay to recycle and are not far from recycling costing just as much as sending our garbage to a landfill. Considering the ins and outs of recycling, environmental impacts, and the economic pressures, have we reached the peak of where recycling can get us? Should we be looking at adding more commodities to the recycle stream, reducing recycling, or recycling smarter with what we already have? Certainly, education of the public to keep our recycling bins less contaminated will have a positive impact on recycling as a whole. Learning what recyclables give us the best carbon offsets and save the most energy will help us to put our resources to the best use. And the downward economic pressure of recycling will ultimately make us decide whether or not to continue recycling the products that we currently are and/or adding more products to recycle. Maybe the whole message of reduce, reuse, recycle needs to be revisited, and more emphasis needs to be put on the reduce and reuse of the triangle.
7:15. We gotta